What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Sunday, March 5th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, so a lot of big hits last night, winning night. So let's take a look at this 7-game NBA slate tonight. At the point guard position, I still like Russell Westbrook at 7,200 DraftKings salary. 800 more on FanDuel from the LA Clippers playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Russell Westbrook has averaged 37.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He's projected at 36.2 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's 7,200 DraftKings salary, 800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. And Russell Westbrook has scored 50, 15, and 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 27, and 27 minutes. So I like this play because Russell Westbrook, if he scores his season average, you're getting right around 5 times value. And then, what are the chances that he's going to put up a 15? He just put up a 15 2 games ago. That was a bomb. That's definitely keeping his salary low here in the low 7,000 range, 7,000, 7,100, 7,200, probably up to 74, 7,500. I think Russell Westbrook is a good play because he's got that easy 40, 50 plus fantasy point upside. So he has an easy path every game that he plays at around the low 7,000 DraftKings salary. He has an easy path to 50 plus fantasy points any given night. And then that just makes him a super value play, and he's a slate breaker. If he puts up 50 fantasy points or 50 or more fantasy points at 7,200 DraftKings salary, then that's a huge advantage for your lineup, and he can do it easily. He's put up 40 plus 2 out of his last 3 games. And actually, if you look at his last 5, the only bad game is that 15th. Throw out that 15. It's a 39, a 40, a 45, and a 50. And then he's got a 45, a 26, a 48, and a 27 in his last 4 games versus the Grizzlies. So 50% there versus the Grizzlies, but well over 50% in his last 5 games in general to return some monster value here. So I like Russell Westbrook here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, another point guard that I like is Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics playing the New York Knicks, who have a good defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Marcus Smart has averaged 29.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He's projected at 28.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,600 DraftKings salary, 500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. And Marcus Smart has scored 36, 24, and 34 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 29, 36, and 33 minutes. So it's not a back-to-back. He's got a good positional matchup here versus the Knicks, and pretty good player versus team history. Scored 34, 35, 25, and 25 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Knicks. So I like Marcus Smart here versus the New York Knicks. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. So a stud that I like, I mean, he's a upper tier, mid to upper price range here at $8,100 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. I like Josh Giddey from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Utah Jazz, who have the 8th worst defense overall, give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. So Josh Giddey, his price has finally broke over, out of the 7,000s into the 8K salary range here. And I think he deserves it because he's been putting up some monster games. So he's got that 50+ fantasy point upside as well. So Josh Giddey averaging 36.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. Projected at 37.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value. He's $8,100 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 237 points scored in this game, so a high-scoring game here. Josh Giddey has scored 50, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 34, and 19 minutes. And we can see he has he's averaging 1.22 fantasy points per minute. So if he can get 30+ minutes in this game, he should get close to 40 fantasy points here. So he's projected at 37.2. And this is the thing with guys like this that have that high ceiling is you start to see that all of a sudden they're projected at over their average, but yet it's not returning 5 times value. That's because of the upside that they bring with these 50+ fantasy point games or these monster games. That's baked into their price, the ceiling that they have, and how often they hit those big games. And Josh Giddey is definitely increasing his price tag with these big performances. So he's at $8,100 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. So I think he's still reasonable, just because he's got this big upside with this monster 1.22 fantasy points per minute. You can't argue with that. So I like Josh Giddey here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. Now, I know this play is getting a little old because his price tag has come up quite a bit now. So Kelly Oubre Jr. from the Charlotte Hornets playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Kelly Oubre Jr. also eligible at the shooting guard position. So he's averaging 32.7 fantasy points per game on the season, and that was while playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. Now, his minutes per game have gone up significantly here due to some injuries at the Charlotte Hornets. So he's playing 38 to 40 minutes a game the last 2 games. So he's projected at 35 fantasy points here tonight. That's still 5.1 times value. He's $6,900 DraftKings salary. Now he's $1,100 more on FanDuel, so I'm going to pass on that FanDuel price. But I think he is still playable at on DraftKings under 7K. So Kelly Oubre Jr. Scored 51, 42, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 38, and 27 minutes. And he scored 46 fantasy points in his last game versus Brooklyn Nets. So on DraftKings under 7K, I don't think you want to forget about him. If he's playing 38 to 40 minutes and he's averaging 1.03 fantasy points per minute, that gives him 40 to 50 plus fantasy point upside at only $6,900 DraftKings salary. So just gotta bring him up because he's still in play. So I like Kelly Oubre Jr. here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, who do we have at the power forward position? So we have Tari Eason on a back-to-back at only 4,400 DraftKings salary. He is 1,800 more on FanDuel, so this would be a DraftKings play only. So Tari Eason, although he is on a back-to-back, he's in a fantastic matchup. So Tari Eason is from the Houston Rockets playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the absolute worst defense overall, give up the third most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. So fantastic matchup here. Tari Eason has averaged 21.1 fantasy points per game on the season, but that was when he was playing an average of 20 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. So his minutes have gone up quite a bit recently, and that's why he's been a good fantasy play. So he's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight, but I'm going to project him at 25 fantasy points here, which would be over 5 times value. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 230.5 points scored in this game. And Tari Eason has scored 38, 29, and 37 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 25, and 31 minutes. So it remains to be seen how many minutes he's going to play in this back-to-back, and he did play 30 minutes last night. Had a nice productive game. I had him in my lineup, put up 38 fantasy points. So can you trust him again here tonight? It's hard to know. Certainly that back-to-back tag hinders him a little bit, but I do think he is still worth playing in a lineup or two. So I like Tari Eason here versus the San Antonio Spurs. Oh, the other power forward, if you don't want to play Tari Eason on a back-to-back, super low salary. This is even lower salary here. Take a look at Royce O'Neal from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the second worst defense overall, give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Royce O'Neal has averaged 24 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He's projected at 22.3 fantasy points here tonight, under his season average, and that's 6.6 times value. He's 3,400 DraftKings salary. Now he's 1,100 more on FanDuel, so DraftKings value play, tournament play for sure. So Royce O'Neal scored 24, 21, and 15 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 34, 23, and 27 minutes. So you have that low, you have the risk of that low 15, 12 point game, something like that, like a 15, 14 point game. But then he can also score 19, 21, 24, 25, 26. He doesn't have a big ceiling, but on DraftKings, if you just need that final lineup filler, you only have 3,400 DraftKings salary or more remaining, then you could plug in Royce O'Neal here, and he could put up 20 plus fantasy points and, just be just fine. Be a good value play for your lineup. So he's playing a lot of minutes. So I look at him as like a lower risk in terms of like returning you that 5 times value or more, but doesn't have a big ceiling or a lot of upside. Probably not going to put up a 30 or 40 fantasy point game, obviously, but he's only 3,400. So I like Royce O'Neal as a value play on DraftKings here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, moving on to the center position. I kind of struggled with this position here. Your studs are on back-to-backs, Giannis and Kristaps Porzingis. So if you're going to look for a lower salary play here, the guy that I found that just makes a lot of sense to me is Mason Plumlee from the LA Clippers playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Mason Plumlee has averaged 31.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate, projected at 30.9 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.9 times value. He's 5,200 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, and Mason Plumlee has scored 29, 40, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 25, 29, and 14 minutes. So if you can get Mason Plumlee for 25 to 30 minutes, then he's going to return value here. He's averaging 1.15 fantasy point per minute while he's on the court. And he has scored 29 and 40 in the last 2, playing 25 and 29 minutes. So those are the numbers you can expect when he plays 25 minutes or more. So I think he's got a great chance at hitting value here, or even crushing value, because he's got 40 plus fantasy point upside, and certainly averaging 31.4 fantasy points per game on the season, which is over 6 times value. So I like Mason Plumlee here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video, or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.